There's a drive way back. It might be. It could be. It is. Holy cow. Welcome to another broadcast of Bricks Behind the Ivy.
Hey, Cub fans, welcome to another episode of Bricks Behind the Ivy. Thank you so much to our awesome sponsors, Wrigleyville Sports, the best sports store in Wrigleyville, and YAGGY Road Roasting Company, based in Valpo, Indiana, serving cups of coffee just as special as the moments you drink them in.
Hello, welcome to Bricks Behind the Ivy.
Hey, Cub fans, welcome to another episode of Bricks Behind the Ivy. I am your hostess, the mostest, Jeff CandidCubs Regalskis, with blue blood in my veins, and yes, as my subtitle says, I had a doctor check to make sure that I was a legit Cub fan and had that blue blood as promised. We give you every Cub story, brick by brick, from every flag-waving win to the crushing sweeps that we cry over. And today, joining me is one of my dear podcast friends and the producer, host of one of the best Amazon TV shows ever, Ballpark Nation, Mr. Jim Christopher. Jim, welcome back to Bricks Behind the Ivy.
Thanks. Before we get started, I do a big shout out to my Lady Longhorns, the Women's College World Series national champs.
There you go. That's pretty cool. I'm just weirdly excited for. We're gonna date this recording. This is gonna come out later, but Missouri Valley team ended up in the College World Series. Murray State. Yeah, I think that is that's great for the Valley because of the TV shares and stuff. And yeah, just
let's see. Their stadium seats 800 people, and the head coach cuts the grass. Good for them, man. Seriously, though, good for them.
It's so cool. I couldn't believe it myself last night. My buddy had texted me while I was watching the Cubs game. He's like, in other news, he said Murray State's about to punch their ticket to the College World Series. And I thought he was messing with me, and I went online and checked it out. I was like, holy cow, this is really cool. This doesn't happen often where you see one of those smaller teams make a run. So I'll be tuning into the College World Series and cheering on the Racers, just like when I was a kid. It was Isaiah Cannon on the basketball team making a run with Murray State, one of the true Cinderella small school darlings. But I didn't bring you to talk about college sports. I brought you on to talk about the Houston Astros. The Cubs will be playing a set here soon, and when this comes out, it'll be the week of the Astros for the first time this season. And honestly, the two things that I think about with the Astros in the last 2 years and the Cubs was Cody Bellinger getting hurt in both series in 23 and 24, which really just altered how the team played down a certain stretch that really made July super important for them to go on this hot run to get back in playoff contention, to late in the season kind of fall apart after pushing so hard in July. A little bit of a different situation for the Cubs right now. They are in first place by 4 games as of this date of this recording, and they are doing a good job managing the NL Central. But how are the Astros doing? What are they up to? And let's talk a little bit, too, if you can, about our favorite player that Cub fans seem to not be able to forget, Cam Smith, and how he's doing over in Houston.
My first instinct is to say, well, the Astros are in first place up by 3. So this might be one of those times when we can look at a trade and say that was probably a pretty balanced, mutually beneficial trade. You can ask me how the Astros are doing. I'm telling you that they're doing exactly how I thought they would do. I thought they'd be a better team than last year. They are not the world beaters that they were from 17 to 22, but that was a once in a generation run.
Yeah.
Just don't ask Astros Twitter how they're doing because they suck. And you know what's funny, man, is when you asked me to come on, I started thinking about the trade, and obviously my Polish brother Wisniewski with the Tommy John surgery after he was pitching really, really well.
Yes,
the Astros had made him a starter. They weren't going to do the swingman thing with him anymore, and it was really as reliable as it got. You could count on 2 to 3 runs in 6 innings, like just pencil it in, and then he got hurt. But Cam Smith, man, you mentioned college baseball. He was playing in the college baseball playoffs 1 year ago now at third base. Now he's starting right field and playing in dynamic defensive right field. He's killing it. His offense is coming along, but he's doing great.
I was just looking him up on Baseball Savant, and like he has one of the better defensive ratings out in right field. Which, obviously that wasn't what he was planned. He was going to be a third baseman for this organization for the Cubs, and they really needed some outfield depth. There's a thin number of players that could play the outfield, and I feel like he made the roster more out of necessity out of spring training than necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that he didn't have. He had a great spring, an incredible.
He had a great spring, and I'll be honest, there was a part of me that was worried. I think I even told you this privately. That was worried that they were going to promote him based on a good spring, but that could have been detrimental to his development. Now, clearly, I was incorrect on all of that because it's been a great year for him, and he does go through his slumps, but he does seem like even at the plate he's getting better. His discipline's getting better. He's hitting the ball hard. He's just getting a little bit of bad luck. But yeah, he's definitely earned his spot for sure.
Yeah, he reminds me, ironically, very much of Matt Shaw on the Cubs right now, in which both of them seem to have a very solid plate discipline for the majors. I mean, he's got like a 320 on base, similar to Matt Shaw. So they do take their walks, which that to me shows like a real understanding of the strike zone. So when you can master the strike zone of that, the hits are going to come. I always believe that that is the sign of a prospect that's maturing in the majors. Now, there are some guys that don't get that on base, and when they're hitting at a 280 clip, all of those 280s are hard hit balls or home runs. So they have a huge slugging percentage. But a guy that's kind of in between as he's adjusting to the league, I always feel like there's just better dividends down the road. And it seems like as the year has gone on, he's gotten more comfortable. And the Astros haven't needed him technically. Offensively, they've had some good contributions from some other guys, and yeah, I think it's interesting from afar. Seen Bregman leave, you've seen Verlander, who's obviously not a kid anymore, but he's not in the squad anymore. Yordan Alvarez has been hurt for a good portion of the season, and they're still a first place club in what I thought was going to be an extremely competitive AL West this year, and yeah, the Athletics, as I named on your show earlier this year as my division winner, have really just not lived up to that bar.
They would look like a good pick for a while, though. They were rolling.
Yeah, and the Rangers, I'm not sure what they are. They're a very weird, bizarre team. They've got some good pitching, and then the offense disappears, and then when their offense comes, the pitching disappears. The Angels are way better than I thought, but that'll fall apart because they're the Angels.
Yeah.
The Mariners just don't know how to address their team properly in the offseason, and I think they're definitely going to be punished. And during this current stretch, they're being punished. They're 3-7 in their last 10, and have won some pretty big games, and have really had to absorb some pitching injuries of Bryce Miller and Logan Gilbert and George Kirby, who have all gone down at different points of the season. What
gives me pause if I'm a Mariners fan is you're plummeting in the standings, and the Astros have actually played a much tougher schedule than they have. Yeah. So the Astros, from strength of schedule right now, actually have the easiest remaining strength of schedule in baseball, and the Mariners are 12th. So if they don't do something drastic at the deadline, and that's not what they do, they just don't do that, they'll fade away, and the Astros will win the division by 5 games.
So looking at just total war on FanGraphs, and looking at Houston lands right in the middle offensively. Who do you think, as Cub fans, who should we be watching at the dish that could really do some damage in the coming series versus the Cubs? Isaac
Paredes.
Oh, sweet irony.
I mean, no, seriously, though, he's been a revelation. The things we talked about when the trade happened. Remember one of the stats? I don't remember if you or I brought it up. That he had all these flyouts that in Minute Maid would have been home runs, and it's kind of played out that way. But the biggest thing for him, and frankly, honestly, Jeremy Pena is the guy you're going to watch out for. But both of those guys, it's like Paredes' plate discipline has become contagious. And now the Astros they're seeing something like an average of 5 or 6 pitches in at bat, which last year that was 2 or 3. And it's as well as I do, you protract that over a game, over a stretch, and it really pays off. The big thing for Paredes that has shocked everybody is he's playing plus defense at third base, and I don't think anybody. I don't think anybody projected that. I think they thought we would get more slug than Bregman had, and we have. But his defense has been more than competent. And when you factor in, you've got 2 or 3 ground ball pitchers on that staff. It definitely plays. It's one of the best defensive infields in baseball, and Paredes is very much an anchor to that.
Yeah, moving Altuve to the outfield was the right choice defensively, and strong infield defense. And I think the Cubs benefit from that significantly. Can raise the floor of an okay team, because if you have pitchers who are putting the ball in play a lot, or if you have ground ball pitchers, which the Astros do have some heavy ground ball pitchers, then you're going to convert way more outs, and you're going to stop a lot of rallies that way. And yeah, Paredes was when the Cubs got Paredes. Like, that was supposed to be he was a steady third baseman. Ironically, he was a Cubs prospect. He was moved many years before to Detroit. But when we got Paredes back, it's like, all right, steady third baseman with gap to gap power, heavy pull power. And but he's gonna walk a ton, and when he's not walking, he's hitting the ball hard to left field. And he just didn't do that. He didn't do that, and he was also awful defensively for the Cubs. And I thought that in 2025 he would bounce back. It just felt like it was probably a situation of maybe a change of scenery just didn't work out for him.
Sure.
And, or the pressure of, going from 700 people at a Rays game to 40,000 at a Cubs game. It's pretty jarring change. But, at the end of the day, I'm not that surprised hearing that he's doing really well, because I think he was in every fantasy baseball league I was this year. Everybody's like, oh man, that Crawford box and that pull power, this guy's going to get like 10 more home runs than he should have. And this is going to be a sneaky pick. And he was picked way too early in a lot of these different fantasy leagues. But he's really paying off owners now, as he's been really hot and leading your team in home runs.
He had a slow start, much like Christian Walker. And Christian Walker's taking a little bit longer to get out of it. Christian Walker is the guy that you mentioned earlier, where has done nothing but hit the ball hard all season, right at people. It's baseball stupid, and we're dumber for even liking it, and that's a big reason why.
Yeah, that's one of those things. I think there's been a stretch here that has gotten Dansby Swanson cold for the Cubs, and he's just been hitting the crap out of the ball, line drives at the left fielder at 101 plus every time, but to the left fielder. And then all of a sudden that pushes, you're starting to strike out, and it's because at some point you need to see something fall mentally. This is a mental exercise for these human beings. It's not. And if you don't see that success from time to time, it's it can really eat at you. I could see, Christian Walker, if once he gets going, could carry this offense. He's a very good hitter. He's always been a very good hitter, and that's a ballpark that should play to his strengths as well. But yeah, it's very shocking to see a 207 batting average from a guy that, was, in the conversation as one of the best first basemen in the NL for a number of years, and really took on the mantle of Paul Goldschmidt out in Arizona. And that the fact that nobody really was talking about Paul Goldschmidt in Arizona, he never missed a beat. So on the pitching side, the guy that always sticks out to me, the back end of the bullpen for the Astros is the part that I'm scared of the most. And it's the same reason I was scared of the Brewers for years. Josh Hader. He can be deployed in a 2-inning way. He can be deployed the end of game. And he is extremely difficult to score off of. He's still one of the best relievers in this game. On the starting and relief pitching side, who should we be looking at?
Well, let's start with Hader. He might be having his best season, actually. I think he's, 17 for 17 on saves.
Yes.
And I will say one of my concerns I've had with Joe Espada is it's a very top-heavy bullpen with Brian Abreu, who's probably the best setup man in baseball right now. And then you have fun fact about Brian Abreu, he's only given up runs to 3 teams. It was 3 games against Seattle, in which the only 3 games the Astros lost against Seattle. He's not giving up runs to anybody else other than that. So he's been pretty shut the door. They're trying to figure out who the 7th inning guy is. It's been a bit of a revolving door on that. A lot of it's young players or players off the scrap heap. But I do think the name to watch is Hunter Brown. If you guys face Hunter, I think Hunter Brown's a Cy Young candidate. I think he's going to be that next ace. If I need a game to win and I can start him or Framber Valdez, I'm going to start Hunter Brown at this point in their careers. And Framber's been great. But there's just, you mentioned Verlander. Hunter Brown's Justin Verlander without the experience or the supermodel wife. Like he is, he's got that dog in him, and maybe he'll get the supermodel wife before it's over with. I don't know, but he's got a bit of a dog in him, and when he is on, he's unhittable. But what's really impressed me about Hunter Brown is he's now learned to pitch. So when he doesn't have his best stuff, he still knows. Like the other day, he only went 6. I think he walked 5 guys and still didn't give up a run. So he has really learned how to pitch, and it's been really valuable because this Astros offense has had to play a little different without Yordan Alvarez. In part, they're having to press the issue a little bit more. They're doing a lot of maybe not running until scoring until middle to late in the game once they've seen an opposing pitcher a second or third time. And so having pitchers that are going to keep these guys in check have really been a plus for this team. The biggest thing the Cubs should hope for is getting to see Ryan Gusto, because he should not be a major league pitcher.
Yeah, Hunter Brown has always been, from afar, a guy I've been very interested in. Thought he was extremely talented. I remember when he got called up, I want to say it was in 23, maybe the back half of 23.
It was 22 because he was on that World Series team. He was brought up just to pitch out of the bullpen, and then
I remember seeing like all the comps on Pitching Ninja in which like his windup was a dead ringer. It's like watching a kid in the backyard trying to replicate Justin Verlander's windup, and he was Justin Verlander's mini, and I felt like I was like, all right, Justin Verlander is going to mentor this guy. He's going to tell him how to get this stuff through. And yeah, 24, I think, I had him really high on lists, and he struggled at points at 24. The numbers weren't there. And yeah,
he was really he struggled. The legend goes, now, of course, this is all legend. The legend goes that he struggled at the beginning of 24. And I think I want to say it was Bregman saying, I could never hit your sinker, so throw that more. And I'm not even sure which pitch it was. Maybe it was a sinker, maybe it was a slider, whatever. But at that point, and if you protract it out through the last 162 games, he's been the best pitcher in baseball. Like hands down. Better than Skeens, better than those guys.
It looks like he's just straight up abandoned his cutter. And looking at the results, there's a really good reason why. Looks like that was the pitch that got him in some trouble. But if you look at this his movement profile, I always like to look at how a guy differentiates the rest of the league, and really it looks like it's his hammer. It just straight down, a ton more drop than the average curveball in Major League Baseball, a true 12-6 in an era where we see so many sweepers. That looks like that's in his sinker and his fastball have a very similar profile, but one moves way more on the arm side, so that cannot be fun to pick up when he's throwing both of those at 96. And one's going right and one's staying pretty straight. So that's just a very talented 1.82 ERA this year. Yeah,
and that's really accounting for one. He got blown up in the that Tampa Bay box that they play in. Hot day, ball was flying out.
I do recall that because I remember early on in the year I was looking at stats. I was like, oh, I think this guy's found it. And then he got lit up, and I checked. I was like, oh, it's at George Steinbrenner's like little spring training facility where everybody can hit, even potentially me. So I just you throw that one out because I'm sure there's bat pip and like home run like probabilities that were like 20% that were leaving by 40, 50 feet. So that's
that kind of game for him.
You can't really take that seriously. But yeah, Hunter Brown. And then let's talk a little bit about Josh Hader. Josh Hader continues to be just, a creator of nightmares for Cubs fans. And I hope that there's a situation where the Cubs, no offense, score some runs and we don't see Josh Hader, because I don't see a strategy ever in beating that human being. He is still nightmare fuel for Cub fans.
Yeah, I'm getting a little frustrated with how Joe Espada uses him sometimes, because sometimes he'll use him with a 4-run lead. And I know it's got a lot to do with, I know 3-batter minimum is the thing, and you don't trust the other guys in your pen. But I guess now it's mid-June, so maybe it's different. But he was doing this in April, and it's like, I want him to not have his arm fall off by September. And so I don't know. I'm always a much more pessimistic, more scared than anything else. But yeah, he has been untouchable. And like, as well as I do, you get into the playoffs, you get two good starting pitchers, and you get a back end of the bullpen you can't score against, you can make a lot of noise. And so hopefully the Astros keep moving this way, and then that's what happens when we get to the playoffs, is we see some of that.
Yeah, and I think that's really going to differentiate, who is a true contender. It usually always does. I think it was, just an absolute shocker when Class A fell apart last playoffs for the Guardians. And, you felt like that they had a real shot to make some noise in the playoffs. And he was truly awful in that first series. And for the first time all year, the talks were like he should not only contend for the Cy Young, but he's been so good, maybe he should get MVP votes. And then 3 days in October and we're done. And that's and I think that's still the Cubs' big weakness, is that their bullpen has been performing really well, but I have this big fear of allowing too much of the BAPIP gods to dictate how the success of this bullpen is going to be. They don't have strikeout stuff. They don't have strikeout stuff in their rotation. They don't have strikeout stuff in the bullpen. So if you're letting balls in play, you're letting so many things that could go wrong potentially happen. You're just leaving too much to chance. So hopefully by the All-Star break, the trade deadline, the Cubs are addressing that. So I do want to plug your show really quickly for folks. If you don't know, Jim does this show that got picked up by Amazon called Ballpark Nation, where he goes around and shows people different ballparks. And, believe it or not, there's a guy that I know that was on one of the episodes, who I like very much and known him my whole life. His name is me. You can go on to Amazon and check the show out. Jim, give us some details on season 1 and what you got cooking for season 2, as I share for those who are watching on YouTube, the page on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. It's one of those rare instances where when you work in independent media like I do, where the goals you set for yourself actually come through. And we do cover major league teams. I will say the minor league episodes are probably a bit more entertaining because of uniqueness of story and access. But they are a lot of fun, and the goal is to show you not just the ballpark, but give you an idea of what you get to see when else you're visiting there. So we're going to be shooting. We're covering the Padres in a couple of weeks, and so we're working right now with the San Diego Zoo to get media access to go behind the scenes and show people really why the zoo matters. Because what do you want to do in San Diego other than go to a Padres game and go to the beach? You want to go to the zoo. So it's a lot of fun like that. We will be covering the Erie Seawolves this coming year, and that's also going to coincide with John Oliver getting to rebrand them for a night, which, those of you who aren't aware of that, go look up John Oliver in minor league baseball. It's going to be wacky. I will tell you, the team is excited and more than a little nervous because they have no idea. They really, from what I understand, John Oliver was sort of given parameters by Major League Baseball, not even by the Seawolves, but by Major League Baseball. Must still be family friendly and things like that. But other than that, they're going to find out, I guess, about a week before everybody else does of what they're playing as, and then off and running. So you'll get some coverage of that. But it's going to be a lot of fun. I will tell you, man. I try to keep it positive, and so an episode that won't be in there is I will not be including the Cleveland Guardians because I just did not love that ballpark experience. So,
oh wow, okay,
sorry, Cleveland. Sorry about it.
Preview and behind the scenes.
There you go. Pittsburgh, chef's kiss.
Yeah, that is that's what's going on there with ownership is infuriating because they have one of the best views, one of the best ballpark experiences that I have ever had, and they're just wasting it by being silly.
And in having one of the most exciting young pitchers in baseball.
Yes, and which I love that we've gotten to the point that they are so inept at doing their jobs that national writers are like, should they trade Paul Skeens? Because
it's the Mike Trout argument, right?
Yes, correct.
Mike Trout, yeah,
it's that you should. If I'm an owner, if I wake up and I'm opening the newspaper, which dates how old I think this is, and if I'm going on the internet and I'm seeing you should trade Paul Skeens because your franchise is the rest, I would call everybody internally and be like, how do we fix this? Instead, they're just continuing to be what they are, which is mediocre at best. And I think I think that's a great place to leave it. Jim, where can folks find your content? And just give I know you have your off day show as well. Give a quick plug for that as well.
Yeah, well, off day is a little bit of a lot of stuff. So I did an episode yesterday by myself, a couple days ago. By the time this comes out, where we discussed Longhorn softball, Astros baseball, the new movies that are coming out, and riots in LA. So we're basically talking about everything other than visiting a ballpark.
There you go.
Our off day. So, but if you go to ballparknationusa.com, you can find links to all of that fun stuff. We got some fun merch that we've done. The Ballpark Nation logo, but inspired by other team colors and things like that, including a blue and red for those Cubs fans out there. So yeah, just check that out and come say hi if you see us at a ballpark. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, and just go check out the website. Go check out the show. The show is super cool. I am obviously very biased to season 1 because I am featured on it. But
you're not even just season 1, man. You were like season 1, episode 1.
I know. I feel like a superstar. Sometimes when I go places, I wonder if people recognize me, and then I realize that that's just the mirror, and I recognize myself. But Jeff, it's always a pleasure to have you on and talking some Astros, and good luck this summer with season 2. Looking forward to seeing it. I am a big sucker for all of the ambiance of minor league stadiums, and watching the show gives me an idea of where to go next with my kiddos. It's usually A, more affordable, and B, more fun.
But and that's exactly why we do it, man, because people need to know.
Yeah, exactly. And if you are listening to this, make sure you are reviewing on your podcast platform. And if you are watching this, make sure you are hitting that like button and that subscribe button below to support Bricks Behind the Ivy and all the shows over at the Bleacher Bunch. This has been another episode of Bricks Behind the Ivy. We'll see you guys soon, and go Cubs.